Hello, my name is Brian Westley Johnson. I want to welcome you to another edition of Soulivity Live. Thank you for being here. We have a great show for you. When you think about the word forgive, you may conjure in your mind and your consciousness old memories of past hurt, anger, or even anxiety. For all of us, forgiving is one of the most difficult and challenging lessons to learn. Now, when I was preparing for today's show, I came across this article. It's called Is Forgiveness a Useful Concept? It was by author Henry Smith, MD. And this passage was of particular interest to me. It goes like this. From a historical point of view, the Oxford English Dictionary indicates that around the year 900 AD, the verb to forgive meant simply to give, as in to give one's love. Thus, even in its etymological roots, it was an active form. It wasn't until about 300 years later that it came to mean to give up, as in to give up or let go of resentment, indicating there was a gradual historical trend toward viewing forgiveness as a passive process or description of something that is not to be felt, to cease to feel resentment, once more defined by its opposite, a trend that endures to this day. Well, today it's all about another important aspect of wellness, the art of forgiveness. As its origins describe, forgiving is meant to be an active, not passive practice. And I can't wait to have a discussion about this fact. So, when she's not creating red carpet or high fashion looks, Julia Jovone dedicates her life to support people in living their best life. Through her practice as a Reiki healer practitioner and spiritual health coach, she gives people support they need to take care of their mind, bodies, and souls. She tells us that we have to rid ourselves of situations which are hindering us from growing and evolving before we can begin to plan for the future that we truly desire. And I cannot agree more, Julia. I can't agree more. So with that, let's welcome Julia back to the show. There she is.
Hello.
Hey, welcome back. I know it's been a while, right? Let's start doing the happy dance.
Back on strong.
Woohoo! I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
So
now,
good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, of course. Everyone out there, look, we love your questions and comments.
Yes.
Even we like to know where you're from. So just post right here to the live feed here on YouTube, or go to our website at soulivity.com, soulivity-tv, and just post into our chat. And we're going to acknowledge you. We'll acknowledge your questions, and we'll get to all that during the show. So don't be shy. All right. So, Julia, forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
I am so glad that we are talking about this, because I think, and this is the first time we've ever really talked about it on the show.
Yep.
So I'm glad that you're doing this and we're having this discussion. This is part of your coaching practices. It's part of who you are. And it's actually should be a part of what we do as beings on the planet. So, first question, when did you discover the importance of forgiveness in your life? When did it kind of click that, you think about it, forgive, right? But when did it really kind of hit where, dang, I really need to practice this, make it a practice, that active sense?
My grandmother, may she rest in peace, Julia, I'm named after my grandmother. She actually taught me the art of forgiveness when I was very, very young. I'll give you an example. Like, my grandmother was so disappointed sometimes in her children, and in people in general, but she would always invite people over to eat. And I'm like, she would cook this big meal, and I'd be like, I called my grandmother Mama. Mama, why they did this to you, and this person did this to you, and you invite them over for dinner? Like, I could never understand that. And she would do it all with a happy face.
Wow.
She explained to me how, in order for her to be free in who she is and to move forward with her life, then she had to forgive them, not for them, but for herself.
Wow.
So that she was able to continue to do and set out to do the things that she's supposed to do and not have any animosity towards anyone. And she also taught me that the art of forgiveness isn't so much about the other person, that it's about yourself.
Wow.
So I didn't understand that too much when I was younger.
Right.
Until it actually came up a point in my life where I actually, someone did me just downright wrong.
Wow.
And I never understand. I'm like, but I'm such a good person. Why you do this to me? Da, 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 da.
Right.
But then I learned that if I continue to be angry with an individual for the behavior or whatever they're doing, then how am I supposed to be this God-fearing woman and trying to move forward when I can't love like God loves, or I can't forgive like how God forgives? Because for one, I'm not perfect, and I'm always constantly being forgiven by God himself. But it's like, I had to learn that, and I just really appreciate that I was so young and I saw that my grandmother teaching me and showing me. It's one thing to teach a kid, but it's also another to show. So I saw her forgive. I saw her walk around with a smile on her face, and it wasn't a phony smile.
Gotcha. So she, like you said, she demonstrated to you what forgiveness is, because, like I was saying in the opening, and I really wanted to kind of hammer this through, that forgiveness, like love, because forgiveness is probably a part of love, and we'll get to what you think about this in a minute, but she was a living demonstration of what was possible when you forgive.
Yes, she definitely was. All the time. I've seen people do my grandmother just wrong. I've seen, her kids just be disobedient. I've seen it. And I also seen how she reacted. Still offered you a warm plate. She still offered you into her home.
Wow.
And I knew that it wasn't about her, that this is something that the individual had to deal with on their own. Gotcha. She forgave them, and then she forgave herself.
Wow.
And that taught me a lot. And I didn't really understand it until I got older and had to do it myself.
Now, when you got older and you're kind of going through this process, we kind of figured what your grandmother's definition of how she lived forgiveness. What's your definition of it?
My definition of forgiveness is, and I know you just said we'll speak on it later, but it's love. It's love. Like, it's unconditional love. Can you love a person past their own pain, their own trauma, and not get so emotionally involved with it yourself? Now, to be honest, I'm human. We all are. We tend to allow our emotions to get in the way. I've done it 1,000 times. But when you really, really are trying to heal and get past a certain situation with a certain individual and move on and move forward, the first step is to forgive.
Gotcha.
You just have to forgive.
Gotcha. So forgiveness is love, and that is part of an overall process that you get to. Like, I know a lot of times, people try to move right into forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
And some are able to do that, right? Probably like your grandmother who's been practicing. So it's almost like, like Kung Fu, right? You got to have a certain level of mastery you know, to get there. Am I right around that?
You got to have a certain amount of level of mastery, but you also have to have unconditional love in your heart.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Because regardless of what anyone does, can you still love them? Now, I'm not saying you forget what happens.
Right. Right.
I mean, you forget, but you learn from that. So you take it as an experience. You take it as a lesson. You try to learn from the lesson, and you forgive the person so that you're able to move forward.
Right.
Your own healing or in your own level of just getting better every day.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's unpack that part, because I think people sometimes they get stuff mixed up. Kind of like when we're kids. I mean, I think I learned from my grandmother as well, the same way. This God-fearing woman that loved everybody. You know, her thing was always that somebody's child, right?
Yes.
And so there is forgiveness, and then there's also boundaries and limits about like, okay, I have this clear boundary on how I will allow this energy to come into my space. Can you talk a little like the difference between that for you? Because I want to make sure that people understand that both probably they coexist at the same time, right?
Okay. Just because you forgive doesn't mean the person has to be around you all the time. Because one thing that happens is some people can't understand why you're forgiving so easily. Okay. You know, and some people can't understand when you have a spirit on you that's so pure, and it's like, yeah, you hurt me, you dogged me, or you did me wrong, or she did this or he did that. But you know what? I'm upset, or I'm upset, or I'm disappointed, but I forgive you. And I'm not forgiving you for you. I'm forgiving you for me, because I have to heal and I have to protect myself moving forward. So some people don't understand that. And that doesn't have anything to do with you. You just have to let people be in their own space. But you have to move beyond what the actual situation or problem is and try to move forward.
Right. What do you believe is the main reason why we have these disconnects? What's your own kind of sense around that? Because I think a lot of times it's disconnects. It's, because like you said, you got two people, two different life experiences, trying to relate to each other.
Two different levels.
Two different levels, like like a certain and a lot is like universal law is PhD stuff, right? And you learn this, and then somebody might be on the beginning of their journey and they may not understand where you're coming from. So that has a disconnect, right?
Some people, well, I know, like myself, I am a very forgiving person. I'm not saying I'm gonna just allow everybody to just do whatever they want to me either, but I am a forgiving person, and I try to love past pain. But I've learned that sometimes, especially in relationships, I've learned that sometimes where you are as an individual, you experience so much life, you've become so successful, you've grown in so many areas, you're just very wise and you're a strong individual. But then you have another individual that's not actually where you are. Sometimes other problems could come about. So when you do talk about forgiveness and you're here and the other person is supposed to be there, they're just not on the level of trying to understand how in the world are you able to forgive? Because I can't, they can't.
Right.
Some people find it so difficult to do that. But then when you can't forgive, do you know how much power you still allow another, bless you, baby, another person to have over you?
Right.
And I don't want anyone to have that type of power and control over me to know, oh my God, she can't forgive me, or he can't forgive me. I got you right where I want you.
Right.
No, I'm gonna release you.
Right.
let you be in your space and let you learn, because I'm going to be here because I have to grow. And in order for me to grow and to continue moving forward, I'm going to have to forgive you, and then I'm going to have to forgive myself and love you.
Let's talk about that, because I think that's such an important point, right? That as part of forgiveness is healing, right? Yeah. That as my father would say, we're not supposed to pitch a tent in the misery, right? And as many of us have done and continue to do.
It's so easy to pitch a tent in the midst of the misery because of being hurt or not being heard, or just holding on to something so tight when it should be just let go.
Yeah. And that you say in order to heal, you must forgive others and then yourself. When you talk to people about this, what exactly are you trying to tell them? What specifically?
To be free and to let it go.
Okay.
Because once you do forgive the other person and then you forgive yourself, you're allowing yourself freedom. You've taken that bondage off of you, and then you're moving on into your own healing.
It's
so hard.
This is National Mental Health Month. And I have a very personal connection to that, as my biological mother suffered from, then it was called manic depression. Now it's called bipolar syndrome, disease, whatever you want to put it. And I learned later in my life that I had to forgive her because we could not connect because of the illness.
Yeah.
And that prevented her from becoming the mother when I was a little boy that I needed her to be. Now, it didn't mean that as you said before, I mean, this is like the practical example of what you're saying, right? It doesn't mean that when she asks for outrageous stuff or shows up at your door or all this kind of stuff, that you're not supposed to have boundaries, right? Because you start living for the disease and not for you and for her from a loving space, right? So that all comes together. So what you were talking about in terms of forgiving others and then yourself and having this sharing of love at a higher level, right? Is so important. You also bring up another aspect of this, which is, a lot of us need to forgive, but we don't know how, or we're in a situation where, like, we have pitched the tent in the misery. It becomes our life, right? I mean, some of us out there, I'm sure there's some people out there right now that are still, I mean, it might be years and years and years and years and years and years and years, a bad divorce that happened 20 years ago, and you're still there.
And still not over it.
Right. A sudden death of a loved one, a child. Right? Why were you there? Why did you have to go? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Can you talk a little bit about what you tell, like, some of your clients and what you how do you live in that space and how you try to move through it?
That's not easy for a lot of people because a lot of people hold on to disappointment. They hold on to anger and they can't see past that. And I feel that when you can't learn to forgive, then you can't love. And I bring the two together because it's so important. You can't say I forgive you, but I don't love you. You can't say,
repeat that one real quick. Repeat that one again, because I think people need to hear that one.
can't say I forgive you and just don't love a person. I feel like they connect.
Mm.
And even though, because it could be a friend, it could be a parent, it can be a daughter, a son, you had to love this person in order to be upset.
Right.
Or to be angry or disappointed in them.
Very good point. That's truth right there. That's truth.
So if you're not forgiving this person, then that means that you just don't love this person. And that means that you just don't love yourself, because you're allowing yourself to just sink into all of that anger and all of that frustration. And it's just stuck there. And you're creating a block.
Right. And you're stuck, right?
You're stuck. And now you're trying to do all this other stuff, but you can't. And then you can't even be around the person. Now, I'm not saying that just because you forgive someone, they immediately need to come around, or you give them the opportunity to do it all over again.
Yeah, that's the other side, right? That's the boundaries. We still have boundaries, right? We still can say, no, I love you, and
yes. Or I forgive you, I love you, but I'm gonna love you from a distance. Because sometimes you can't even be around the person, but you forgive them.
Right.
Because you need that time, you need that moment to heal on your own. Right. But coming from the other individual, which could be an individual who just can't even forgive you. Because just because one person forgive one, another one, they have to forgive too. It's a two-way street. I feel, I could be wrong, but I honestly feel that it's a two-way street. Because you have one person that's saying, you know what, I forgive you and I forgive myself. And you have another person that's saying, well, I don't see it like that. I'm still mad at you.
Right. Right.
That's their own problem.
Right. So your forgiveness of them isn't contingent on their forgiveness of you.
Right.
So you just keep moving on. Is that what you're saying?
Moving on.
Okay.
You have to keep moving on and know that you did what's right, which was just the first step to forgive and to continue to love them, either love them in that moment or love them from afar. But you have to let them. You have to just disconnect yourself. And that's where the boundaries come in. It's like, okay, you're there, I'm here, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna forgive you and move forward. If they're not able to do that, then that's just not your problem. They have to deal with that on their own.
Do you think do you think that, I mean, that's probably, I think the universe always speaks to us, right?
Yes.
And if that is the case, then that's probably a very clear sign that this person is not supposed to be in your physical space. That means phone, that means text, that means in your house, that means no lunch, no dinner, none of that.
None of that. You can't do it. How can you do it? Because if you're one person that's forgiving and then the other person can't forgive it, and if you two still trying to, and that, like I said, this could be relationship, mother, father, dad, uncle, auntie. This could be any situation. And you guys are saying, okay, let's go to lunch, or let's go here, let's do that. That other person is actually still feeling some anger.
Right.
Or some type of way. It doesn't have to necessarily be anger, but they're feeling some type of way. And if I see a person like that around me, I'm going to think that you're being fake. Right. I'm going to think that you're using me for something or your own personal gain. Because if you're around me like that and you can't forgive me, then why are you around me?
Right.
I just don't understand how that happens. If I'm saying I forgive you, and then your brother or sister is like, well, I don't forgive you. Actually, I don't even love you. Or you're your best friend, but I'm going to go eat with you.
Right.
Who ends up paying the bill?
See, now.
You got some slick ones out there too. They'll pay the bill too, but they always want something.
Right. So people will use this as a process because I think a lot of times, let's talk about this part, because this is really good too.
Uh-huh.
Forgiveness is unconditional, right?
Yeah. Forgiveness.
So talk to us a little bit about, you know, when people say, they may say it, that I forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
But the next step after that is kind of like what you're talking about, which is, well, you owe me now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the forgiveness comes with some strings attached. Tell me about what
Sometimes.
sometimes. So tell us a little bit about that, because I want to make sure that people are getting this wide panorama of what forgiveness is and what forgiveness isn't.
Forgiveness, for one, let's just go to what forgiveness isn't. Forgiveness isn't me or whoever saying, I forgive you, and another person saying, oh, okay, thank you for forgiving me. And they're not coming to you and forgiving at the same time. They're using you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Right, thank you. And it's like, okay,
Golly.
forgive
Okay.
you, thank you. But because everything it's two-way, it's two stories. What am I trying to say? Everyone, there's two stories to a situation. That's her story, his story, or mama's story and daddy's story. It's always two stories. It's two sides. And when those sides come together and they bickered or went through whatever, I just feel that when one says, I forgive you, the other one's like, okay, all right, thank you.
Right.
But you're like, okay, not necessarily, not saying that they have to forgive you either.
Right.
But in order to move forward, you both have to forgive each other and understand whether it's a continue on or not, whether you guys say, okay, we're still going to be friends. I forgive you, forgive me.
Right.
It just, I just feel like it just has to be that way. And sometimes some people don't want to forget.
Right.
Just because you say, I forgive you, doesn't mean the other person have to forgive you at this moment.
Right.
Everybody needs time.
Right.
And everybody has to move in their own timing.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't worry about the other person. You only have to worry about yourself.
Right.
And your duties as a human being. And that's just, I forgive you, I forgive myself. Let me move forward. If you can't be together or be in the same realm as the same person, then you know what? I'm going to love you from afar. I'm going to let you do you, and I'm going to go over here and do. But as long as you know you did your part, and that's all you can do.
Okay.
No more, no less.
All right. All right. Hey, I love it. I love it. To continue on this, it's, you're talking about, what forgiveness is and what forgiveness isn't. And it sounds like it's just boiled down to, like love. If it's love, love is unconditional.
Love
In fact, a lot of times you don't even need to say unconditional. Love is love, right?
Love is love.
And so you talk about how to make forgiveness about you and not the other person. What are some steps, or what do we need to recognize around that when, we start making it about us? Like, you hurt me, so, and then whatever you want to say after that. Talk to us a little bit about that part.
Wait a minute, what are you saying? Like when you say you hurt me, like
a lot of times we have these situations in relationships where there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
We feel hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cast blame.
Yeah.
But then now we want to go into forgiveness. But the forgiveness in that point is them admitting that they hurt us. And we're making it about us, about me, in terms of what that other person did to me.
Yeah.
Not, you did this, I'm hurt, I still forgive you. How do we change that dynamic where it is about us?
Yeah. Okay.
At a soul level,
mm-hmm.
And it's really not about what they did. Right?
It's about your own healing.
Okay. So that's our reminder. Okay.
It's about your own healing, because like my grandmother taught me, you have to forgive the individual and then you forgive yourself so that you're able to say, okay, you release that control. Sometimes people, when you're not telling them or forgiving them, sometimes it continues to have a control factor on another individual, and it's still allowing them to pull from your energy.
Mhm.
But you can stop that by literally releasing yourself from the situation and saying, I have to let go of this and I have to forgive you and I have to forgive myself so that I can do what's best for me. Can you imagine just not forgiving someone and you're in this funk or you're in this mode?
Yeah.
You just, everything that you try to do or try to move forward with, it's just not working.
Right.
Right. You just can't do that.
Wow. You know, and I think at its core, that's what we're trying. That's specifically what you're trying to do, right? I mean, and what you're trying to tell people that forgiveness is one of those. Again, we're talking about the art, right? It's an art that you have to master. And
release. You have to just release. It's an art, not to cut you off. It's an
no,
art you have to master, but it's also a form of release.
right,
Letting go.
right.
Like some people have a hard time letting go and a hard time releasing. And I'm not talking about like, oh my God, I love you, I can't let you go. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about situations that you have no more control over.
Right.
You shouldn't have control over. That if you keep holding on to it, how that one situation can control your life. Because guess where you're putting all of your energy into? That situation instead of moving forward.
Yeah.
You're not being fair with yourself.
You know, that is so true. You know, I think too, a lot of times, you know, we talk about forgiveness in the concept of just people, right? But there's also situations,
Yeah.
right, where we dream of landing this big job, or we dream of this success in this specific way, and it doesn't happen.
Right. Disappointment.
We have disappointment in that kind of deal. What do you tell to some of those to people who are dealing with those kind of situations? Because I think this is all related, right? It's just different aspects of one art, one practice.
I feel that when it comes to that disappointments in that case that you just explained, that's when you have to accept that, no, that's when you have to say to yourself, what's for me is for me.
Ah,
What's not is not for
okay.
you. And when you know when things isn't working and you're trying to do all you can, but you're constantly getting disappointed, then it's just not for you. It's not meant to be for you. And sometimes people are just not where you are
Right.
in your life. And you take it as a disappointment because of an expectation. And sometimes expectations aren't bad. You know, I want to expect the best of everybody I come across. I expect the best. I expect people to want to expect the best of themselves or expect the best of me. So sometimes expectations aren't that bad, but sometimes expectations leads to disappointments, which leads to not being forgiving.
Yeah.
So it all just circles back around. But
So
you have to protect your spirit and you have to protect your soul, regardless of what situation. You just have to learn to let it go, forgive, and move forward. Let it go, forgive, and move forward. Or forgive, let go, and move
right.
forward.
Now, if we find ourselves in this space, because I think sometimes, you know, we're in that funk, or we're kind of locked in, right? Where We're not, yeah, look, I ain't ready to forgive.
I got one for that one.
Okay, go for it.
It's either you're not ready to forgive or you're not able to actually tell the person that you forgive them. Goes back to my favorite thing of all time, writing it out.
I love it.
Writing yourself a letter or writing a letter to the individual to let them know. Or maybe you don't even have an address to write a letter or email. You got all this technology out. You can just send an email or whatever, or a DM. But maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you just want to release it on your own and you just want to write a letter and just burn it and let it into the universe.
I'm going to tell you, I was thinking, as you were talking, Julia, I was thinking of the burning bowl practice, right? Mm-hmm. Where, and all of you, if you haven't heard of this, it is a practice where you write down the things that you want to release. And before this, you go into a meditation about it, right? You let it all come up, mm-hmm. and you write it down on paper. And you start, be careful now, of course. If you have a fireplace, you can do it with the fireplace. If you have a grill, you can do it in the grill, but someplace where you can safely start a fire or burn something, and you burn that paper, you burn it, and you release it, and you allow yourself to release it. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking of that as you were talking, like, wow, that would be so great to do on as when you need to do it. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. My guess is to things like, as part of, I know you probably tell your clients this as well, meditation. Yeah. Oneness, stillness, mindfulness, all these practices help you probably stay in a place where you can get in contact when you have a block around that. Right. Okay.
Well, my thing, what I suggest, and not to get off the subject, but
no. I think this is all part of it.
Is today is a new moon, mm-hmm. which is the perfect time to release anything that's been negative in your life. Mm. Write it out. First of all, set an intention. Write it all out, get it out, and burn it and release it into the universe. This is the perfect day to do that today, which is the new moon.
Wow. So set the intention. Yep. Write out what you want to release.
Mm-hmm. Go somewhere safe and burn it.
Yeah. Don't do the burning bowl in your car, okay?
Right. Please don't do that.
Especially not when you're driving.
Right.
And then release it. Let it burn and release.
Let it burn and release.
Wow.
And let it go. That's a really good step for letting go. And I'm not saying, trust me, I'm not saying all of this is so easy.
Right.
It takes time. This takes patience. This takes understanding on your own part.
Okay.
It's not something that's gonna happen overnight. That's why we have to set the intention, right, and just take that time so that we could be able to move forward.
Right. One thing that we were talking about, we kind of conversed both verbally and electronically, was forgiveness doesn't mean you lose all negative feelings forever.
Exactly.
Talk to us a little bit about what you mean by that.
Forgiveness doesn't mean that you are going to forget everything, per se. Forgiveness is just a way of letting go of someone else's control over the situation, letting yourself let go of the control, and to just move forward. It's not something that's always easy for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying keep going around getting hurt so that you can learn how to forgive and master it. I'm not saying that.
Wow, that's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother show. But what I am saying is that you do have to learn to have patience with yourself, have unconditional love,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're able to move forward in your own healing.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe that forgiveness is some, I know a lot, a lot of times people say, well, I forgive and then I'm done. Do you
Yes.
think that forgiving is something that you need to do and that, let's say it's a person and that you forgive and you're not quite there. Do you go back to that well again and try and keep forgiving?
Gosh. You can't really necessarily keep forgiving.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But what you can do is forgive and let it go.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. Forgive and let it go. But don't assume that everyone else is going to be understanding with your forgiving.
Right.
Because a lot of people won't. Like I said, a lot of people will be like, well, I don't understand why you're so forgiving. Some people get fearful.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh my God, she or he just forgave me. I don't understand why. But it's not for them to understand. It's just for you to do it and move forward. And not saying that you're going to forget the situation either. Like I said before, it's not saying you're going to forget. You're just going to learn from it.
Right.
You're going to become more wise.
Gotcha. So you're saying that, like, and I brought that question up because I think a lot of times people think of it that way, that you just keep forgiving the same situation. But what it sounds like you're telling people to understand about the process is that you forgive, you let go,
right,
and then you deal with whatever residual feelings that are there through a growth process.
Exactly.
But the forgiving and all that is in terms of that specific situation, you've moved on. Let it go.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then the back end, and again, we're talking about, how hard it is to forgive, because a lot of times, though we believe that the front end is the hardest, a lot of times it's the back end that's the hardest, right? Where all this stuff comes up and now we've got to learn, we got to do these lessons, we have to grow from it. And that may impose that we have to change.
Right.
And we may not want to change, right?
We may not want to change. That's why I'm saying that it's you're human and it's okay. And it's not going to be easy all the time, because sometimes people have trauma done to them. And I'm not saying that, oh my God, someone just busts me in my eye, I forgive you.
Right.
I'm saying that you immediately just forgive every situation, but you do eventually forgive.
Right.
It's going to take time. It's going to take healing. It's going to take you understanding. It's not easy. Forgiving is not easy.
Tell us what you do on a regular basis to stay in the frame of mind that when stuff happens, you need to move into this state of forgiveness to release. What are some of the things that you do? What's one of the first things that you do?
Get a pen and a pad first.
Oh.
No, I mean, everybody get a pen and a pad.
Pen and a pad.
All right. No, write this down. No. Because I have been through it all, which I'm sure a lot of us have. But it's, like I said, it's not easy. But one of the things that I have done is, first of all, I'll give you a situation to where you can find yourself going back and forth in a situation, right? You're saying you forgive, but you can't let go. You forgive, but you just can't let go. Do you understand where I'm going?
Oh, yeah.
person, yes, I forgive you. You hurt me, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Let go.
But I still live right there with whatever situation it was with this person. I'm still living. It's like it happened yesterday.
Right. But what I'm trying to say is that sometimes your love could be so strong, especially in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Your love can be so strong to where you're saying you forgive, but it's like, okay, but it's hard to let go of the whole situation.
Right.
So one of the things I do is I have to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to being that angry with someone and having to forgive, then I go to Reiki.
Hello.
Because sometimes you're picking up other people's energies. That's not allowing you to see clearly, focus straight. So therefore, I have to go into my Reiki and I have to work on me. And I have to try to see things from the other person's point of view. Even if I'm not satisfied with the decision, I still have to learn to forgive, because if I don't, then I'm allowing that process and that situation to just sit in my spirit.
What do you do? What are some of what's like one practice that you do to kind of, is it through your meditation that you see, or that you go into seeing it from the other point of view, from the other perspective? Like, okay, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to go into this quiet space and do some visualization. Is that okay? All right.
I actually ask spirit for guidance, and I ask spirit for help. Okay. We have to call on our angels. We have to call on our ancestors and our spirit guides. I'm a strong and firm believer of that, if I need to know anything, if there's any information that I need, I'm going to call out for spirit to please help me.
Hello.
To please help me. And then when I get a message, and say, for instance, it'll say, you have to forgive in order to start this process so that I can help you and guide you properly. Gotcha. Then I allow spirit to come within me so that I'm able to forgive. And I go to the person and I say, you know what? I explain to them how I feel. I tell them and share with them my thoughts and my feelings and how much I may love them or whatever. And then I forgive them, and then I explain. Right. Or help them understand that I forgive myself.
And to be clear, there will be times at which the person you'll be able to do that physically with the person, either phone or in person. But there'll also be times at which the person is not there. Like you go into forgiveness for a person making their transition, right? Or you go into forgiveness, or you talk about a certain situation, right? But I think that's so important that you go. I love this. So meditate, write.
Meditate, you write it out, and if you can't actually get to that person and say how much to tell them that you forgive them, or you're no longer, maybe you're not even no longer talking to this individual anymore. Right. Then you write it out. This is something that you have to release from your spirit, to let go of that control, to get it out, to release that block so that you're able to move forward and positive in your life.
Wow. And I love this one where you're saying, see it from the other person's perspective.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a very, very, very important piece, because, that helps probably release a lot of pain. Yeah. Too.
Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing as far as the pain. Sometimes that pain can be that block that's within you. And you know what some people tend to do? They tend to cover it up. So just covering it up. It's easy for some people to move on, but it's hard to move on when you still have this block within you, this block of unforgiveness.
Gotcha.
You can't, you can't even live fully. You want to be able to release and live your best life. And that's the art of forgiveness. Let me forgive so that I can be able to go and live my best life.
So at the end of the day, what we're talking about is, again, as I said before, you know, this wellness, this having this full best life, that you cannot get there without forgiveness.
You can't.
Practicing forgiveness.
You have to practice forgiveness. You have to let go.
Wow.
And like I said, and I'll say it over and over, it's not easy. No, I'm not saying that it's an easy task or an easy thing to do. It takes time. But eventually, within that time, you're going to have to forgive. And you're going to have to forgive yourself. Because sometimes when we're forgiving someone else, we're not forgiving ourselves for the decisions that we made, or for certain situations that we caused certain things to happen.
We're opening up the door, right? We're opening up the door to more miracles.
Exactly, more blessings.
More blessings. I mean, all that now can flow into our lives even that much more.
Yeah, you want that to flow, and you want to be free. Yeah. You want to allow yourself that freedom to say, "Oh, I lived my life. I've learned. I'm forgiving. I know what type of person I am. Now I'm ready for the next experience."
All right.
That's what
Hello.
This is about. A total experience.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I love it too.
Girl, always when you're here, we always have these good chats.
Me too. I love these chats. I miss these chats.
Well, we're going to be doing more of them now. I know. I'm like,
you've been asleep.
Ah.
I'm literally talking to you and rocking her with one foot.
That's what I'm talking about. You know, tell us about what you're doing right now. I mean, tell us about some of the other things. You know, Lips and Protocol is still going on.
Lips and Protocol is actually going to be relaunched.
Okay.
Excuse me. By next month.
Okay.
We're starting off with excuse me, some stuff with BET. So that's as far as the beauty side. And I am actually going to be doing some, now I'm a Reiki master.
Yes, I was about to say, I'm some dun da da da.
I'm going to incorporate some things with volunteering with some cancer patients.
Okay.
So I'm going to be doing that a lot more, that once a month, where I go in and give free Reiki sessions to some cancer patients here in Los Angeles.
Wow.
A lot of volunteering, a lot of coaching, a lot of rebranding and launching, and just trying to move forward and get even deeper in helping a lot of people, because there's a lot of healing that needs to be had out there. A lot. And I'm just grateful to God that He's used me as a vessel so that I'm able to help myself by the power of, the spirit, and so that I can be able to help others. Because it's not easy.
Well, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're living from you're in your square.
Yeah.
And you're living from truth, and you're letting that truth express itself through, all these other things that you're out there. You took the leap a long time ago, Julia. I mean, we talked about, when we first did our show together, you talked about the things that you had gone through in your life and how you decided that this is how you were going to live. You were going to live your life with purpose and passion, and that this is who you are, and you're going to live an authentic life. And so you've been the demonstration of that. And so this is just, when you talk about what you're doing, it's almost like a part of me is like, wow. And of course,
And it makes me happy. And I'm glad that I've pushed baby out.
Yes, everyone, if you didn't know.
Oh my God, she was so heavy.
I know Julia just had a baby. Like, how old is the baby now?
He's 2 months. I just had a baby, and now I am going through a little transition in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a positive transition.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm ready to take from an experience that was had and revamp it. I'm 42 and I'm just gonna
just a baby.
best
Just
life.
a baby.
You
Just
say
a baby.
I say
Just getting
mature.
started. You're just getting started.
I say very mature.
Never seasoned, right? So I ain't no potato. I ain't no greens. I'm not no greens. It's, you know, some chicken. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is how we do it, y'all.
Yeah.
Girl, thank you for being here.
Thank you for always having me. And
oh man,
all out there, whoever was able to log on.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is one of those shows that you go back to and you watch and you watch and you watch.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we do need to practice even when we do have a certain level of mastery around forgiving. We need to go back and we need to remind ourselves of what's true about forgiveness, that forgiveness is love. It's kind of like what I talked about at the beginning, and that is the original meaning of forgive was to give. To give love, to give one's love.
Another thing before I get off this, and
Sure.
I'm not going to waste some more time.
Sure.
To say that it takes a strong individual. It takes a loving individual to really, really forgive. Yeah. And to forgive and help the other person. Right. And love them through their own situation and their own pain and their own dilemma. It takes a strong individual. And once you can do that and help someone, forgive them, forgive yourself, and then be able to help them past that problem or to the next level in their life, even though, especially in a relationship, even though you may not even be together, baby, you're a winner.
Wow. Well, we're a winner with you being here.
Aw.
All right. Listen, Julia's going to be back next month. We're going to continue our conversations about wellness and mindfulness and healing. Remember, you can go to wellnesswithjsoul.com or by visiting our soulivity.com website. She'll be back on June 1st. So watch this space. We're going to talk more and more about wellness and the positive effects it has on your mind, body, and soul. I want to remind everybody that you can catch any of our inspirational videos 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, even on holidays by going to our new Soulivity TV. It's broadcast, it's live streamed every single day. So you can go there and get some inspiration and to feed that part of you that needs that warmth and that love. We're here to support you in doing that. So until next time, for myself and Julia, this is Brian Wesley Johnson saying thank you to all of you for joining us. And of course, we're wishing you love, passion, and happy living. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.